Hello and welcome to the Rhode Island School of Design Convocation 2022. We represent the Brown and RISD student group WORD. At this time, we ask that you silence all cell phones and mobile devices. In the event of an emergency, please take a moment to locate the exit nearest you. So, etc. And yeah.
We would also like to start today off with a land acknowledgement to acknowledge that RISD is built on Narragansett lands. Land acknowledgements are really important because it acknowledges Indigenous people as present day people, not people of the past, but people of the present. Narragansett people are still here, and that is really important. Land acknowledgements are also important because they start a conversation on the ongoing genocide of Indigenous peoples, the ongoing colonization of Indigenous peoples. Thank you.
Poetry for y'all. I'm going to introduce our student group, which is WORD. So WORD was founded in 2001 by Sage Morgan Hubbard, who is still a phenomenal local poet, teacher, educator, change maker in Providence. And she founded the space at Brown and RISD in 2001, specifically to amplify the unheard and illuminate the unseen. And the way this looks at Brown and RISD is that we are specifically a spoken word poetry group that is only for students of color. And that is because of like lots of historical legacies of basically just making sure that voices of color are unheard and unseen, and thinking to amplify those spaces and making sure that we have those spaces to hear those things. And it's really, really like what has made Providence a home for me and so many people I know as well.
So we are going to read some poetry to y'all, but before that, we need to let y'all know what a spoken word event looks like. So spoken word is kind of how it sounds. It's word that is spoken, we speak it, and there's usually an audience involved, and that means audience participation. With that, I'm gonna hear the foot stomps if you can. Can you foot stomp? If someone can get a holler and say, yes, poet! Exactly. So yell, say whatever snaps. Can I hear you go? Yeah. There's interaction. Feel free to be in this space with us. So with that, I want to introduce my lovely friend Ren, who is one of the most amazing poets ever. So if you could please give them a round of stomps and applause.
Thank you. So I always like to introduce my poems a little bit, just because a poem is nothing without context. And this was the first poem that I wrote when I first got to Providence and was feeling really homesick. And I was raised by my grandmother, and she is everything to me. And every space that I enter, whether it is here or back home or wherever home is, I'm always thinking about her. So this was an ode that I wrote specifically around her. And also, as a trans disabled person, I'm always thinking about body horror. So this is sort of a way of like how I felt at home in my body, and how so much of that has been in like specifically like bathhouse and like spa spaces with my grandmother. So it's called Ode to the Old Ladies in Locker Rooms. I want to write a poem for the old ladies in locker rooms. The real bare naked ladies who subvert that so-called locker room stereotype, who reach but don't touch, comment on your body, remarking, "Gunyang, look at your figure." I can only remember being that young, your skin so tight, your shape so strong. The old ladies in locker rooms see bodies as dynamic foundations, not objects. Each roll of chub, look how your skin pulls you close, keeps you warm. Look how tight your body can hold all you have taken in, and think of how much more it can do, the elasticity of your body's potential. Each stretch mark a sign of how much you have grown, how your limbs extend and expand. Tall child, be proud of how your roots have fueled you. The old ladies in locker rooms lay it all out there. No shirt, no bra, no towel, hands levitated away from their bodies. And you cannot help but think, now this is what a lived-in body looks like. They point to their bellies, their protruding veins, their lives coursing through and announcing themselves. See how vigorous I live. Point to their wrinkles, each one a groove and a valley carved by experience. And if you are so lucky, you may hear the advice they hold. Always boil your water, start your day with porridge and egg, and when you are sick, do not forget the ginger. There's nothing that ginger cannot cure. They slap their thighs and arms in synchrony with each other, every whack a live performance of harmony before it is time to go. But no matter what, before you leave, they will remind you to eat. Eat more, eat better, offer you the fruits of their lives, and you will be glad because today you have been fed. I have one more poem for y'all. So as some of y'all might know, Rhode Island is the ocean state. And one of my favorite people in this life, Dar Quayura Imani Bayer, who is my mentor and is like someone I consider like a spiritual ancestor, recently had kind of a new transition. So I wrote her a blessing, sort of inspired by that which she calls her foremost mother, which is the ocean. And yeah, it's a blessing for a turning of new tides, and thought I would offer it to y'all in your transition to a new place or a new school. Every time I return to the ocean, I think of the ways that it is exactly that. A return, how I have learned to return from you, my feet meeting the hands of the sea as they are today, waving me in, saying, here you are again. Welcome home. I sink my feet in and print these toes into the earth, stand still, which is to say that I let my whole body and being be moved by the ways the waves will beckon me. Seaweed hugging, tugging at my ankles at itself. See these whole ecosystems of entanglement here at my feet. See the ways these strands wrap around each other, saying to the other, I do not know where my roots have gone or where I come from at all, but here I am, growing alongside you. The spirals of my body growing in sequence because of you. I do not know where you end or where I begin, and yet this growth is as much mine as it is yours, as it is ours. And I thank every last atom of your body for its being a place where I have grown from, a root system we have built together. And when the tide releases these strands, gentle arms of red and green, I watch it meet itself. As one wave rises inland and its underbelly pulling itself back, meet itself in the middle as though to deposit its gifts, all the life that it holds, and return it to the self, where so much of its life belongs. But there is a shell, a rock, some sanded down pieces deposited here at my feet, and there are things I have tracked into the ocean, swept towards her as she accepts my gifts too, as she holds herself, lets the tide storm in and recede, feel her give and receive, nourish all the ecosystems inside her. And maybe by sitting at her feet, just as she has been holding mine, has offered me all of this life into my body, I too am nourishing the ecosystems of this body. Hold salt water and spiral shells, sanded rocks, feel the ways the ocean has held me, and how I learned to let her from you. Know that to learn this, to return to the ocean, is to also return to the ecosystems of you, to know that I have returned home. And now give it up for Jared Katz.
Please give another little like round of applause for Ryan. I'm sorry. That last poem was my first time hearing that. Okay, I'm gonna put this up a little bit. Hi. So I have one poem that I'm going to be sharing with y'all today, and the name of it is Poetry Isn't Sacred. Where it comes from when I was writing it, Audre Lorde has a black feminist has a poem called Poetry is Not a Luxury. It's like 2 page or not poem, has a piece called Poetry is Not a Luxury. It's like 2 pages. Please read it. The PDF is online. You can find it with the easy Google search. But part of that piece talks about the importance of writing and imagining, specifically for Black women. But I was a student to that piece. And so poetry isn't sacred to me, is to say that as kind of an invitation for all of y'all to start writing, because yeah, okay, sorry. Poetry isn't sacred. Because I write some dumb shit sometimes that would definitely piss off some poetry gods if it was, but it's not. So no, this poem will not make you cry. This poem will not give you the key to life or some divine revelation. You'll forget about this poem by dinner time, I promise. This poem is a scribble of thoughts. You might be expecting a twist at some point. You're not gonna get it. This poem was not written to be finished. This poem is possibility. You might have come here with expectation for a masterpiece or something close, and that's stressful as fuck. And expectations like those are what's stopping people from writing poetry in the first place. Like, yeah, I was talking to my friend and they were saying that they want to start writing poetry, but what's stopping them is that they're scared of writing bad poetry. And how I felt was that made me kind of pissed off. And by the way, we're still in the poem. Does it become not a poem when I start talking in my talking voice? Does it become not a poem if I write it in book form or like a skit? What if I don't write it down, period? Would a land back chant at a march be poetry? What if I don't even speak it? With the heat of my body at a protest, protecting a family in my community from getting evicted from their house in a neighborhood that has already gentrified many of the other Black families out, count as poetry? True poetry would shame a sonnet, in my opinion. So I wasn't pissed at my friend. I was pissed at the fact that the view that they've been given, most people have been given, of poetry so limited. Love, there's no such thing as a bad poem. Come here with your perfectionist ass, you can't fail poetry. I mean, look at this poem already. It's a mess, ain't it? Poetry is your birthright, like freedom is your birthright. And this poem is world building. This poem says other futures exist. This poem is stubborn as hell. This poem is fun to write and hopefully to read and hopefully to hear. This poem don't need to be deeper than that. Some poems are deeper than that. Some poems don't need to be seen by any eyes or heard by any ears. Some poems are more powerful that way. Some poems are prayers. Some poems are swords or journals or resistance or therapy or alphabetical doodles or meditation or roundhouse kicks or nonsense. This poem gets dirty looks from poems with iambic pentameter. But this poem practices self-love. This poem is content with all the things that make this poem this poem. Some poems start with a dedication. Some poems end with a quote. This is one of those poems. The greatest thing a poem or poet can give is permission. Nate Marshall. Oh, all right, so y'all, hey, all the poets of color in the room, like I said in the poem, you don't even have to identify as a poet or anything. You just have to like the idea of poetry, maybe. if you liked what was up here, please come through to Word. Word Performance is our on Instagram. If you want to follow us there, you can also reach out to us, find us after here. And yeah, that's all. Much love, big hugs.
And just want to say one more thing, which is that like Word is like truly like open to any levels, and also you can drop in and out. First year was really freaking hard for me, and like I always came back to this space and did not start sharing any of my poetry, mostly because it was bad, until college. So really want to welcome y'all into this space and like acknowledge that like I think from Jared's poem, y'all can see why poetry needs to be performed, right? And there is a quality to it, particularly as people of color with oral traditions and oral histories, that really happens in a magical way when poetry gets spoken. So yeah, thank you so much. From there, we are going to, hold on, and
introduce
yes,
RISD President Crystal Williams.
Is this somebody's phone? Good morning. Welcome to the new academic year. Welcome back, returning students, faculty, welcome staff. Welcome first year and graduate students. It's good to be back in community again, even as we continue to live with and respond to the specter of COVID. I want to thank Provost Masakian and all of the forthcoming speakers who will outline some facts and ideas and realities about life at RISD for you and help you pave a way to a successful academic year. Today, I want to talk a little bit about community, which in my short time at RISD has struck me as being paramount to not only what we are as an institution, but how we are as artists, designers, and knowledge makers. First years, in Sunday's address at the old church, you may have noticed that I did not speak very much at all about our institutional commitment to equity and social inclusion. And that's because I wanted to talk about these principles in the broadest arena. So I waited till today. Many of you know that for years, my work has been focused on helping institutions better embody the principles they espouse regarding social equity, diversity, and inclusion. In those years, I've learned a great deal about the habits of mind and action that help to actively achieve these goals, and also what habits of mind and action that work against these goals. So I'm going to list some habits, but before I do that, I want to talk to you a little bit about my uncle. His name is Robert. I grew up calling him Uncle Bobby, and now I just call him Uncle because although I do have other uncles, he's my favorite uncle. He's the one who taught me my first poem. He taught me how to read the stock pages when there were stock pages. And he's the person who I've spent the most time with. He is funny and probably the most stubborn person I know. Uncle is 87, about that, I think. Sometimes it goes to 86, sometimes he says 88, which means he was born in the 1930s. The world he was born into included women having only just gained the right to vote 10 years prior, included the Great Depression, Jim Crow, and lynchings. When he was born and through a great deal of his lifetime, lesbian, gay, and bisexual people lived in a constant state of mortal fear. Same-sex marriage wasn't a possibility for much of his adult life. On the whole, few middle-class women worked outside of the home, much less ran companies, became artists, etc. Schools, restaurants, stores, theaters, all segregated. When he was a boy, thousands of Japanese Americans were forced into internment camps and for decades following were ostracized. Neurodiverse people largely did not attend college. Likewise, Prior to the GI Bill, working class students, save for scholarships, did not regularly attend college. There were no curb cuts making life easier for mobility impaired people. There were no sound enhanced crossing signs for visually impaired people. Computers, no. Typewriters, maybe. Gender neutral bathrooms, no. So what has this history lesson to do with us, you, me here at RISD? The world and his frame of reference is completely different from mine. And students, my frame of reference is completely different from yours. As if we come from different worlds, speak different languages, no? And this too is a kind of diversity. And it requires that we remain lifelong students, that we be flexible, that we constantly wrestle with ideas that to us once seemed foundational, defining, but which in time may change, and with it may cause our behaviors to change. This kind of lived experience diversity is one we often overlook, but should not. An example of what I'm talking about. So when Uncle was a kid, his neural pathways learned really 3 forms of addressing others: Miss, M-I-S-S, Mrs., and Mr. There was no Ms. when he was a kid. He had to learn that. They, those didn't exist in the common lexicon until he was in his late 70s. He's had to learn that too, just as I have, and just as most people over 30 have. But for many students in this room, non-binary lived experiences, pronouns such as they and z, their pronouns, and the recounting of one's pronouns have always been part of your lived experience, your lexicon and daily interactions, like water, like air. When I look at Uncle, given what I know of history, I'm amazed at our capacity as humans to expand our thinking and change our behavior. Indeed, for me, at least, thinking this way about the spectrum of human experiences calls me to engage others with rounded edges, not sharp elbows. And indeed, in my experience, the best, most inclusive cultures are ones in which people coexist, imperfections in tow, and learn from and with one another. They are cultures where missteps are not so much attacked as they are discussed and interrogated, where hard edges are softened intentionally, where grace is often and regularly afforded, and importantly, where apologies are offered genuinely and also with grace and a promise to keep learning and to trying to get it right until we do. We talk a great deal about diversity as an institution here at RISD, and I want to contextualize some of that because I hear us say diversity, social equity, but I don't hear us actually naming the kinds of diversity that exist here regularly. So there's age diversity. We've got people here who are 16 and people here who are 80. There are art and design traditions from Kuwait, India, Madagascar, Argentina, Dominican Republic, Ethiopia, France, China, Greece, the United States, Jamaica, South Korea, etc. More than 45 nations are represented here, and many more cultures are represented here. We have people who are active members of faith communities: Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, Baha'is, Unitarian Universalists, many. Among us are progressives, liberals, libertarians, conservatives, and people who are apolitical. There are people here for whom a $50 dinner is insignificant, and people here who struggle to buy basic toiletries and for whom a $50 dinner is an impossibility. There are people here who are neurodiverse, and there are people here who do not know what dyslexia is. There are people here who use the terms Hispanic, others Latin, others Latinx, others Latin A as designations. And there are people who don't understand the distinction between these terms. There are people here who are veterans or who live with veterans and know a great deal in concrete terms about realities of being a veteran. And there are people here who don't. There are people here who are first in their families to attend college. And there are people here who have no idea as to the complexity that that identity represents. So you take my point. If the multitude of complex human experience to do with identity were to be placed on an XY axis, right? So gender, race, socioeconomic status, political persuasion, veteran status, disability, ability status, LGBTQ status, etc., all in this XY axis. With X being a human experience and Y being fluency, understanding of that experience, each of us would have a variable line. Over the years, I've learned that with certainty, each of us, myself included, has great fluency in some areas and little to none in others. We have high points and we have low points. And that means everyone in this room has something to learn. And that, beloved community, is a call for humility and for being grateful. I, for one, thank goodness that we are in an educational community, a community committed to rigorous interrogation and learning, where better to learn, not just about art and design, but about the broad range of human experience than at an institution of higher education. Where better. Further, what more I know suggests that what Kima has to learn may seem utterly obvious to Brian. And what Brian has to learn may seem utterly obvious to Kima. This too is worth remembering. If you understand yourself, even about yourself, even just a fraction of what you don't know, calling out others for what they don't know becomes difficult. In other words, how do you justify calling out someone for not knowing ABC when you don't know DEF? Hold that idea, students, and take it into your studios, into your crits, keeping in mind the dozens of countries and cultures from which we all emerge. To my mind, pointing fingers, shaming, and calling out are actions that work against fostering an inclusive learning community, and are often actions rooted in arrogance, masquerading as protectiveness and righteousness. There are many things about Uncle that I love. First of all, he pulls his teeth out and does that. He's been doing that since I was 5 years old, so. I also love that he makes sense of the world through poetry, much of which he has memorized. If you ask him, and sometimes if you don't, he'll quote random stanzas explaining, well, sweetheart, Omar Khayyam says, and then quote, quote, quote. But more, he is smart and wise and profoundly curious. He is also profoundly open-minded about most things and changes his ideas and behaviors in accord with new information. These states of being, smart, wise, curious, intellectually and socially dexterous, I believe are interrelated and interdependent. From Uncle, I've learned a particular habit of action that I want to share with you because it served me well. When Uncle encounters a way of being, a way of thinking, a political belief he doesn't understand, an action that is unfamiliar to him, he asks, and this is important, he asks without judgment and with the presumption of goodwill. Some version he asks of the following question: how did you come to that thinking, action, belief, idea? Or sometimes more simply, Uncle will say, sweetheart, why do you think that? And then he listens. As I've aged, I've understood this question to be a gift replete with mutuality. He gains knowledge, I am seen and heard. His question does not always result in an agreement, but he's not asking out of some sly means by which to change my mind. The question isn't a manipulation. He's asking because he's eager to know. This too is a generosity, a profound act of generosity. And that question, at least between us, opens a dialogue. And through dialogue, I have seen Uncle flex his other superpower, which is to change his mind and to change his behavior. And I have had the opposite happen. Having answered the question and engaged the conversation, I've changed my mind and I have seen and heard Uncle. So I offer you the framing of the question. How do you come to that thinking, that action, that belief, that idea? And I offer it to you to wield with sincerity. It's my belief that curiosity, true curiosity, requires humility. leads to self-awareness that is, I think, imperative if we intend to not only coexist, but to co-create a thriving, diverse community in which people from all backgrounds, cultures, traditions, ideas, identities can and do thrive. This morning, I've narrated a list of habits of action and habits of mind that you might consider adopting, practicing over the course of this year. They are, just to name them again, curiosity and eagerness to learn from others and about others, self-awareness and humility, willingness to shift and change one's behavior, presumption of goodwill. I hope as you go into the year that you will adopt a sense of humility and curiosity about your peers and RISD faculty and staff. I hope you will consider the many different places, histories, and stories from which we all emerge. I hope you will think about your own histories, stories, cultures, and your own XY axes. In so doing, you will help make ours a more inclusive, gracious place, a place full of world art, world knowledge, world learning, a place that thrives and hums. I wish you all a wonderful year. So my job now is to introduce our illustrious director of the museum, Sarah Gans Blythe.
Welcome, everyone. It is a sincere pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the RISD Museum. Across the street, you'll find the museum. And yes, a little closer here. Hello. Better? Okay. So across the street, you'll find the RISD Museum. And on the 6th floor of the museum, there's a humble paint box used by an artist in Egypt around 1300 BCE. It includes a hollow well for water and brush storage. The box also contains 7 pigments made of rocks, ores, and plant. There's a cake of yellow ochre, Egyptian blue, which is the first synthetic color. There is white, dark red, and 2 shades of charcoal blacks. Modest in size and portable, the paint box allows us to ask questions about artistic process, color symbolism, chemical compounds, and the environment. The fact that this tool is the centerpiece of a gallery embodies the focus of the RISD Museum, which is not simply an art museum, but an artist museum. It is not a place for passive consumption of art and rote histories, but like an artist studio, is a space where objects made from the ancient past to today are catalysts for experimentation and the generation of new ideas. For example, just a few paces from this paint box, you'll encounter an exhibition called Inherent Vice, referring to material that deteriorates or self-destructs. Garments in the collection suffering this fate, including irreplaceable ball gowns of corroded silks and beads, were deaccessioned and transferred to a group of students. They created new bodies of work out of what was disintegrating. So in this sense, the museum is not an inevitability, but a malleable framework from which new narratives, ways of learning, and relationships can grow. And so my welcome comes with an invitation to use the museum as your studio, your classroom, your place of work, to critically confront the past, to embrace the complexity and ambiguity of our present, and to ask how we can authentically serve our communities into the future. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Provost Anais Masakian.
Thank you for your patience. Welcome, students, parents, if you're still here, faculty, staff, and friends of RISD. I am Anais Masakian, Provost here at RISD, Interim Provost. Whereas many of you are starting your first year here at RISD, I am starting my 31st year here at RISD. On behalf of my colleagues, I want to welcome you anew or welcome you back. President Crystal Williams, thank you for your words. We feel this glorious and transformative moment in our history with your arrival and are energized and grateful for this. This fall semester on Friday, October 7th and Saturday, October 8th, we are thrilled, delighted to celebrate the inauguration of Crystal Williams as the 18th president of the Rhode Island School of Design. Classes are canceled on Friday the 7th so that you may join us. You are not free. You have a lot to do those 2 days. So that Friday the 7th, you may join us at the investiture ceremony and community celebration. In addition, we encourage you to explore the concept of space in art, design, history, pedagogy, social justice, and community during a 2-day symposium, open studio tours, and other public events. This is an extraordinary place with remarkable people. From your faculty, department heads, deans, to the staff within your departments, to staff and leadership across RISD, you will feel supported, challenged, in dialogue with, and celebrated. Now, celebrated, what does that mean? It means we all it's somewhat a continuation of President Williams's words and what she was speaking about. We all celebrate different things and in different ways. Make sure you are celebrated in the ways and in which the things that you want to be celebrated for. Sometimes celebration is in commemoration of something. It's about first happenings, first moments. It's in memory of perhaps a tragic event that through the years has become celebrated by bringing community together. And so think about what you celebrate and how you celebrate as an individual, as a culture, as someone from a particular race or ethnicity, and bring that to your classroom and to this community. We welcome it. I am grateful to be at an institution where you, the students, bring new perspectives, challenge the possibilities, and help us transform while we support the creative expressions and intellectual curiosities you possess. Allow me to introduce the deans and faculty who are responsible for leading RISD's academic programs. Dear colleagues, please stand as your name is read. Richard Gann, Vice Provost. If you haven't noticed, the slides behind you will show an image selected by each individual. Sarah Cunningham, Vice Provost for Strategic Partnerships. If Sarah is here, please stand. Stanley Wolako Wanambwa, Assistant Provost, Social Equity and Inclusion. Nicole Marola, Dean of Faculty. Margot Nishimura, Dean of Libraries. Now on to the divisions. Most of you will be choosing to be a member of a division come late February. Some of you are already in your departments. Dean of Architecture and Design, John Caserta. Department Head, Apparel Design, Lisa Morgan. Debbie Chen, Graduate Program Director, Architecture. Chris Feast, Department Head, and Patricia Johnson, Graduate Program Director, Furniture Design. Paul Solelis, Department Head, and Bethany Johns, Graduate Program Director, Graphic Design. Peter Yaden, Department Head, and Ayako Takase, Graduate Program Director, Industrial Design. Wolfgang Rudolph, Department Head, and Eduardo Duarte, Graduate Program Director, Interior Architecture. Pardon me for any poor pronunciations of your name. Joanna Barthmeyer Payne, Department Head, and Suzanne Matthew, Graduate Program Director, Landscape Architecture. Experimental and Foundation Studies. Joanne Stryker, Dean of Experimental and Foundation Studies. Spencer Evans, Program Head, Experimental and Foundation Studies. Shauna Kitchen, Department Head, Digital Plus Media. Fine Arts. Brooks Hagan, Dean of Fine Arts. Kathy Schimmer, Department Head and Graduate Program Director of Ceramics. Amy Kravitz, Department Head, Film, Animation, Video. Jocelyn Prince, Department Head and Graduate Program Director, Glass. Eric Telfort, Department Head, and Caleb Brown, Graduate Program Director, Illustration. Tracy Steepy and Timothy Vesky McMahon, Graduate Program Director and Department Head of Jewelry and Metalsmithing. Craig Taylor and Jackie Gendel, Department Head and Graduate Program Director of Painting. Brian Ulrich, Department Head, and Steve Smith, Graduate Program Director of Photography. Cornelia McSheehy, Department Head, and Megan Foster, Graduate Program Director, Printmaking. Heather Rowe, Department Head, and Taylor Baldwin, Graduate Program Director, Sculpture. Marianne Creel, Department Head, and Anna Gittleson Khan, Graduate Program Director, Textiles. We're getting there. This is the amazing wealth of disciplines and individuals that will support your future here at RISD. So again, just want to applaud. I'm moving on to liberal arts. Jennifer Pruitt-Ferlino, Dean of Liberal Arts. Eric Anderson, Graduate Program Director, Global Arts and Cultures. Lindsay French, Department Head, History, Philosophy, and the Social Sciences. Abhishek Ganguly, Department Head, Literary Arts and Studies. Sean Nesselrode Moncada, Graduate Program Director, Nature, Culture, Sustainability Studies. Donna Chinquamani, Department Head, Teaching and Learning in Art and Design. Islam Musafar, Department Head, Theory and History of Art and Design. Another round of applause for all of these. I would also like to take a moment to recognize our new full-time critical review track faculty for the 22-23 academic year. Please stand as your name is read. Angelo Bacca, Assistant Professor, HPSS. Johanna Barthmeyer Payne, Associate Professor, Landscape Architecture. Debbie Chen, Assistant Professor, Architecture. Amalia Gadona Broche, Assistant Professor, Textiles. Sage Gerson, Assistant Professor, Literary Arts and Studies, NCSS. Mingying Hong, Associate Professor, EFS. Amalin Eng, Assistant Professor, Architecture. Nandita Raman, Associate Professor, Photography. Race and Art and Design, Cluster Hire. Africanus Okokan, Assistant Professor, FAV, Race and Art and Design, Cluster Hire. Courtney Wolfgang, Associate Professor, TLAD. Fatma Maswood, Assistant Professor, Landscape Architecture and INTAR, Race and Art and Design, Cluster Hire. Mina Hassan, Assistant Professor, Painting. And last, Sun Hei Yu, Assistant Professor, Literary Arts and Studies. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for all of your work this year and your commitment to our students and to strengthening our community each and every year. At this time, I'm delighted to introduce you to 4 of our fellow students who will welcome you with their unique perspectives on a RISD experience. Zoe Pulley is a presidential fellow. Zoe, you want to come up? Pursuing an MFA in graphic design, she received her BFA in fashion design with a minor in media studies from Virginia Commonwealth University in 2015. Zoe, it's going to take me a second to get back to my seat.
What's good, everyone? Hi, thank you, Provost, for that lovely introduction. And I'm honored to be here with you all this morning. My name is Zoe Pulley, and I'm a current grad student studying graphic design. When I decided to apply to the two graduate programs in the fall of 2019, my primary interest as a maker evolved around a fascination with my personal family histories and the desire to tell and preserve our stories. I was born in Chicago, a city where 3 generations of my family have established roots, built livelihoods, and called home. Although I was raised in New Jersey, I have always been drawn to the places in which my family have matriculated through, with both my paternal and maternal sides, moving from the South and then building lives in new cities such as Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia as part of the Great Migration. With that, I came to grad school in hopes to explore these generational stories for research and to tell them through various design applications. Having attended an arts institution for undergrad, my practice as a designer had developed into a hands-on one, utilizing various tools that were at my disposal to create, experiment, and play. The funny thing is, I didn't realize the myriad ways in which I took those tools for granted until I graduated into the real world. In the real world, you cannot easily walk into a lab and cut plexiglass with a laser cutter, rent a 3D scanner for a week, or 3D print some file you just sketched up. So when I decided to apply to graduate programs in the fall of 2019, my second goal became quickly apparent: to find access to tools to make cool stuff. In early spring of 2020, before the pandemic shifted our lives as we knew it, I was able to visit this neat little school I had just been accepted into called RISD. During this visit, I was able to meet current grads, my future faculty, and bear witness to one of the foundational qualities of the GD program: a strong, supportive cohort of designers and thinkers. Toward the end of our campus tour, we stopped into a studio located on the first floor of a building called Fletcher. The studio is known as CoWorks, which is an interdisciplinary research lab open to the entire RISD community that is filled with all sorts of tools and goodies one could hope for. Read the laser cutters, 3D scanners, 3D printers, and then some. After stepping foot into CoWorks that day, the lab became one of my primary factors in my decision to attend RISD. In the winter of 2021, I joined the CoWorks team as a graduate instructor and quickly met amazing, talented, and brilliant folks from across the entire university, not only interested in learning new skills, but interested in sharing those skills with one another. CoWorks, among other student resources around RISD, such as the Nature Lab, RISD Museum, Fleet Library Special Collections, Color Lab, Zine Library, and access to a community filled with incredible thinkers, doers, movers, and shakers, has not only enriched my grad experience in ways I could not foresee, but has allowed me the chance to explore my initial impetus for coming back to school, to tell stories of my family's histories. In the fall of 2022, I was able to create a quilt. The women on my father's side have carried on a quilting tradition for generations, with this craft being passed down, practiced, and preserved. Through research aided by my aunt, shout out, student hour visits to the RISD Museum, and many tools and guidance from generous community members at CoWorks, I was able to complete a commemorative thank you to these matriarchs in my family in a way that would not have been possible without access to these tools. In the fall of 2022, I stand before all of you all with one last remark. Be sure to take advantage of this incredible opportunity you have before you meet all the people, do all the things, and make all the stuff. You'll be very happy that you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe, and I can't wait to critique that quilt you made. Next, we have Justin Lee. Justin is a dual degree student. Sorry, Justin, I'm ruining your moment. Did you?
Totally fine.
Studying sociology and painting at Brown and RISD from Vancouver, Canada.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me all right? Awesome. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today to welcome the newest members of our community to the extraordinary institution that is the Rhode Island School of Design. My name is Justin Lee, and I'm a third-year student studying social analysis and research at Brown and painting at RISD. Today, I'm going to share some of my favorite resources at RISD and Brown, as well as the greater Providence community. For that, I wanted to acknowledge that RISD is built on what is now called College Hill, part of the ancestral homelands of the Narragansett Nation. Indigenous people from many nations, near and far, live, study, and work in Providence today. The amplification of Native voices and histories is crucial to rectifying the many violent legacies of colonialism, and we gratefully acknowledge the ongoing critical contributions of Indigenous people across our state, region, and nation. Personally, I was really glad to learn that RISD is already in the process of creating tangible change through repatriation efforts, scholarships, and community outreach. I can't wait to see these initiatives continue to grow and thrive under the leadership of President Williams. I truly mean it when I say this. There's no place in the world like RISD and all of its wonderful, weird glory. I urge you to take advantage of all the crazy opportunities that come your way, design some of your own, and make the most out of your RISD experience. One of my favorite resources here is the RISD Museum. Last winter, I took a class on Baroque fashion, which culminated in a trip to the RISD Museum, where we were encouraged to look at, touch, study, and feel authentic garments from the 17th century. The museum is always offering incredible research opportunities, so please get out there and find the ones that resonate with you. Another one of my favorite resources at RISD is the website involved.risd.edu. Did you know that we have a midnight soccer club? It's actually just a group of people from Brown and RISD that come together at late nights to kick a ball around. It's amazing. Joining student groups like this is one of the best ways to meet people from all across Providence, so I highly encourage it. As a bonus, if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to look up our school mascot. If that doesn't get you excited to kick a ball around, I don't know what will. At Brown, one of my favorite places to explore is the John Hay Library. It holds literally millions of items, but their special collections stand out to me the most. Take a trip to John Hay to look at some old world paintings, hand-bound books, and rare pieces of history from all across the world. It's also super quiet, so it's a fantastic place to study. Maybe write some papers, study for your finals. If you're interested in supporting the local Providence community, I highly encourage you to check out the Swearer Center for Public Service at Brown. They offer everything from education opportunities to volunteer programs. And if you're willing to walk a few blocks, Brown also operates the Ladd Observatory, a space for astronomy research and observation. While I've never been myself, it's open to the public and I've heard amazing things about it. If you're stressed with studios, spending an hour looking at the stars with some friends might be an awesome way to relax and recenter. To close off, I want to reiterate one piece of advice that has stuck with me continuously. Take advantage of whatever opportunities you find and be proactive in the few years you will spend at RISD. As artists, we spend hours crafting beautiful stories, but so often we forget that you are the author of your own life. So when a classmate asks you to explore the nature lab or go on a walk around Providence, remember that these opportunities are yours to own. I hope you'll make the most out of your RISD experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. You know, there's a group of us trying to get rid of that mascot. All right, now I would like to introduce Dina Horshid, a presidential scholar, a presidential fellow, and a second-year graduate student in textiles.
Thank you, Annie. We'll have to bring this then. Thank you. Hi, good morning. Marhaba. I don't know about you, but being here is making me both nervous and excited. Congratulations. What a moment this is. I'm not one for public speaking, but what brought me here to this stage is the feeling of belonging and gratitude to be a part of RISD. I think a lot of others share the sense of community, commitment, staff, faculty, and students alike. My name is Dina Khurshid. I'm a visual artist and designer. In my second year at the Textiles graduate program, I came to RISD from the United Arab Emirates and Lebanon, a year after witnessing the Beirut port explosion and having a strange moment, perhaps an epiphany of some sort, that I need to make art, that I cannot let my creativity be crippled by any doubts or circumstances, as I looked at the collapsed wall of my bedroom at the time. Experiencing that, along with other losses and being a third-generation Palestinian refugee, has made my art practice touch on identity politics, displacement, domesticity, and the psychology behind attaching meaning to visuals and fragments of memories as a way to preserve them through using yarns and prints and fabric. Textiles as a medium of protection, shelter, and expression. Having access to facilities, mentors, crits, and a great studio dynamic and environment with my peers impacted my work in a scale that I never imagined before. I wish you all this kind of growth in whichever discipline you choose. The RISD network is global and generous. You will soon be bombarded, happily, with so many emails of opportunities, exhibitions, calls to participate in different things, and newsletters. I believe there is something to learn from everybody. And I have taken classes with so many students, whether they were freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, or my graduate peers. I believe that having that kind of exchange and being able to walk between buildings really creates a unique dynamic that I found very specific to being here. I want to share with you something that I experienced last year. I was feeling really frustrated that I didn't understand an assignment too well, and I felt like I did a horrible job at my crit. So I reached out to my graduate program director at the time, Anais Masakian, to apologize for not being on top of things. Please don't do that. And not the apology, but being really harsh on yourself. And she told me in a way that was very firm and very clear, and yet really lovingly. She said, Dina, you're not here to impress anyone. You're here for you, and we are here for you to support you. So I want to end on that note, a reminder to be gentle with yourselves and others, especially when things get stressful, because they definitely will. And to know that there is the community beyond this room and the few years you're here for is there for you to support you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dina. And our last student speaker, Leslie Ponce Diaz. Currently a Ryzen fifth year student studying architecture and fine arts at RISD. Hi, Leslie.
Hello, everyone. Hi. All right. So thank you so much for having me today. It is such a pleasure to be here right now. My name is Leslie Ponce Diaz, and I am a first generation and Mexican American architecture student at RISD. I continue to explore my passions for architecture, community, and education through my involvement within RISD and off campus to support my hometown in Kansas City. My journey in finding architecture as my major in RISD relied upon my interest in working alongside marginalized communities to design spaces for more safer and sustainable environments. When I first applied to RISD, I actually initially chose sculpture as my major. My experimental foundations year taught me my love for spatial and experiential design. And after speaking with the now great mentor of mine, Elizabeth Dean Herman, she made me realize that my interests in environments and community aligned perfectly with architecture. She introduced me to projects that integrated community designs. And for me, I was always taught that architecture were only skyscrapers, but she allowed me to see the possibilities of the field. I learned the importance of asking questions, attending open studios, and asking upperclassmen about their majors. I'm very pleased that I chose architecture as my field of study, and I'm excited to continue my practice upon graduation from RISD to become an aspiring Latina architect in my own community. At RISD, I have been involved in various leadership roles throughout my time here. And one of my all-time favorite involvements has been founding the RISD Latinx Student Club, RISD Mango Street, with a thank you, with a group of friends during my sophomore year, which eventually led to being recognized as a student organization of the year by the RISD Center of Student Involvement in 2020. And today I'll be sharing more about my experiences in uplifting the Latinx community on campus through the use of culture, celebration, and collaboration. I remember that I actually attended an arts history lecture from an amazing professor named Sean Neselronde Moncada that actually took place in this very stage. I was actually sitting over there in that area. He shared with us a video on the screen of Selena Quintanillo's film, who's a very important cultural and singer icon of the Mexican community. In the film, her father expresses the struggles of being Mexican American, where one doesn't feel like you are from here nor from there. There's often a dualism that exists when your identity feels like it's in between two borders. Professor Sean is so great that one day he also wore Frida Kahlo socks. And even that little gesture, I felt seen. Learning from Professor Sean today, I stand in front of you all to hopefully be that much needed Latinx representation. I might not be wearing Frida Kahlo socks, although I kind of really wish I was. But today I made a mango beaded necklace to celebrate the impact that the RISD Mango Street Club has had on my own personal journey and the Latinx community on campus. When I first arrived at RISD, I was eager to join a Latinx club to stay connected to my cultural roots. After doing research and talking to upperclassmen, they told me that the past Latinx clubs were no longer active. I had an intuition that there was a need for the club, especially after being inspired by the amazing Black artist and designer club named BAD on campus for Black students, so I knew it was possible. So I gathered my two great friends, Michelle and Jen, and we got to work. We received over 70 plus signatures and comments from students saying that a Latinx club on campus was a necessity. Some students said that they missed having a space on campus where they could speak Spanish. Others said that they had never been in touch with their Latinx identity and were interested in exploring it more in college. Everyone had their own reasons for the needs of a Latinx club on campus, and listening to their story was beautiful. It inspired me to keep going. We had a leadership board of 10 Black and Brown students ranging from all majors and cultural backgrounds. At our events, students and faculty all came together to celebrate the Latinx community. And we didn't let COVID stop us. In 2020, we made self-care bags that we called self-love bags, and we shared them across the community. We held Zoom events to allow spaces for students to connect. The club's name, Mango Street, is inspired by the novel The House on Mango Street, a novel by Mexican-American author Sandra Cisneros. The book explores themes of belonging. As a freshman at RISD, it might be your first time being away from your hometown. I know for me, it was actually the first time I had visited the East Coast and being apart from my family for long periods of time. My home on campus became Mango Street. It was the space where I felt I belonged. If I could leave you with one piece of advice after my almost 5 years at RISD, it is something my family often says in Spanish. Crea y camina tu propio destino. Create and walk your own destiny. Do not be afraid to express yourself in ways you haven't before at RISD. This is your opportunity to get involved, become a student leader, and create work that allows you to creatively express yourself. Coming from a family of construction workers who work tireless labor in roofing all day and night has allowed me to be on this very stage today. Be proud of who you are and or want to become. If it wasn't for Professor Sean, I wouldn't have been able to receive the Latinx representation I really needed at RISD. I hope to be that same sense of representation for you today and inspire you to paint your own path, embrace your personal and cultural narratives, and the people and the opportunities that got you here today. I wish you all the very best in your upcoming first year, and may your art and design journeys continue to beautifully blossom during your time at RISD and beyond. Thank you y gracias.
Leslie, thank you so much. Students, I'm so grateful to all 4 of you for your willingness to speak about your RISD experience. I don't think a provost, no matter who they are, could do as good a job as you 4 have done. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. And now we're at the end. I don't have to remind you that we are resetting after COVID, do I? We're all here in this auditorium together, and I think I'm taking it for granted a little, but I just wanted to point out the importance of all being in this room together. So thank you all for joining us at this year's convocation. First year students, the academic session with Dean of Experimental and Foundation Studies, Joanne Stryker, and Dean of Liberal Arts, Jennifer Pruitt Pralina, will begin in 5 minutes here in the auditorium. If you are watching this remotely from Metcalf Auditorium, please make your way over to the RISD Auditorium at this time. I'm sure they have very exciting things planned for this session. Yeah. All other first year students, please take a moment to stand up and stretch while keeping the aisles clear for departing grad and transfer students as well as faculty. Graduate students are invited to connect with their cohorts at the department welcome meetings later today. Everyone, thank you. Again, we look forward to seeing you all in your studios and around campus.